Hey Dramatics, welcome back. So we just watched the first episode of The Prisoner of Beauty, and I have already watched up until episode, I think like 12 or 13, so I'm somewhere in the teens, but decided to go ahead and rewatch it with Dramatic Bestie, because I already told her about it immediately. I've been telling everyone immediately about this drama, as you saw in my community post. So, Bestie, what do you think about episode 1?
This is going to be interesting, because, you know, we have the whole backdrop of a war, and revenge plots, and two people with two very different goals, and like trying to achieve goals for their own people and trying to protect their own people, and seeing how that's all going to mix and meld together. I'm in. I'm like, let's go, let's do this.
Yes.
Ugh.
And I think that's what the fine point of this is because you've seen this kind of trope over and over again. You know, enemies to lovers, and marriage of convenience, or really inconvenience at this time. Inconvenience for both of them, but more of an inconvenience for him because of how he feels about her family. And essentially how they're going to suss it out, especially when you already get to the end of episode 1 and there's a game of pretty much a tug of war of give and take. So, but I guess let us rewind back to the beginning to kind of give the foundation of what all has happened and why we are ending up here. So the Prisoner of Beauty, it starts off with a couple of clans. You have the Wei clan, which is the male leads people. Then you have the Chow family or clan, which is the female leads family. And essentially, their grandfathers broke bread together. They had built these waterways and stuff that pretty much filtered throughout their fictional place. And this place isn't in China. It's clear that this is a fictional place.
Broken up into different territories. And a long time ago, before the start of the series, their two clans formed an alliance, basically. Yeah. So her clan opened up their waterways to allow the Wei clan to get water, did I have that backwards?
No, that's correct.
Yeah, and then in return, the Wei clan provides, protection? Or is it the other way around?
I think it was protection because the Chow clan has armies and stuff like that, but it seemed like the Weis were a little bit more of a militant state.
Yeah.
But where they had the brawn, the Chow family or clan has the resources. Yeah. I think that's the difference.
Even a little bit we did see the culture was very different. The female lead Mama's culture is just very chill. It's just kind of vibes or whatever. They don't
playful.
They don't seem like they have a lot to really worry about for the most part. And
except for
when we're gonna get to that. But the Wei clan is just all dark and gloomy and very rigid. There's very much a hierarchy of different things and how they go. But yeah, so their grandfathers had formed an alliance, and they were okay, if something happens to you, I have your back, and vice versa. And
about that, stuff happens. So there's this punk bee called Lee Su, and I'm trying not to say Lee Su from Till the End of the Moon. It's so easy to say that. So if I accidentally slip and say Su, my bad. But there's this punk Lee Su that comes 14 years prior to the start of the drama, and goes invades Shindu, which is the state that the Wei family had. He took it over, and he pretty much had Wei Xiao's grandfather, father, and brother executed. And also, there's a lot of people that I recognize in this, and initially you will see off the bat, his brother is portrayed by Bingo Gao, which a lot of y'all had known in, what was it, Eternal Love and Dream? So you know who Bingo Gao is. You know how you initially will watch a drama and so much, especially in the first episode, so much diction and information is overflowing to you. You're just I don't understand it until you get later on in the episode. Then when you rewatch episode 1, even though I'm rewatching it now, it's still a flux of information because there's a lot of stuff they're trying to get under their belt to establish the foundation of this place and what the cause of the strife is and the reason why there's enemies on each side. But even with all of that being said, at first I thought it was his father. Bingo Gao is in his 40s. He's about 41, 42. Okay. And so his little brother is probably was about 10 to 12, roughly in that age. I'm that's a large gap. And so
it was a surprise, baby.
It was a surprise, baby. And of course, there's no telling, other brother being born to, another wife or whatever else. So that's never established. And then in the hindsight of this, it doesn't really matter. But, the most dramatic thing is that Bingo Gao's character, his brother, puts Wei Xiao's character into, or the little version of him into a chest to protect him while his grandfather, father, and eventually brother got slaughtered by Li Su. Li Su takes over Shindu, and therefore the whole thing is that the Chow clan does not come and back them up. And I guess like Mama, when she was little, kind of rolled like some teeth, I guess, like rolled the die to see like what they were supposed to do, because her grandfather, I guess, was teetering on what to do. Mm-hmm. The teeth or the die pretty much said to fall back, protect themselves, so they fell back. So with that betrayal, the Wei clan was just like, oh, bump this, we're going to get revenge on everybody.
Yeah.
So.
And the grandfather was kind of teetering, mostly because he's like, well, do I protect my people, or do I hold true to this one alliance promise? And although I would love to help them, I can't sacrifice my own people in that way. Like, they're not equipped for that type of stuff. Like, they're kind of peace-loving, chill people. So
yeah,
they would have gotten slaughtered. It would have killed both of them. Right. And part of the alliance too, which was very interesting foreshadowing. The grandfather's like, okay, we're forming this alliance. If you live, we live. If you die, we die together. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of supposed to be the thing.
Yes.
But I think if that grandfather had not had like Maman around, I think the decision would have been different. But I think he was very protective over her.
And probably all of his family, because like it's not only just Mama, you also have like a whole bunch of other people, which we'll get into in a minute. And it's kind of like what you said, it's like versus the militant state that the Weis seem to have versus, you know, the peaceful resource gathering Chow family. They don't have that same qualifications, especially to have as many feet on the ground as the Wei clan does.
Yeah, and there's a sort of perception, we'll see this later, but there's this perception that the Chow Chan is a little bit weaker, so to speak. And so, you know, it would have annihilated both their clans.
Also, like a chance that the grandfather took, because I wouldn't necessarily say, of course, lucky, because, you know, it sucks for what Wei Xiao eventually does do, because I'm like, that's a very traumatic thing, watching your loved ones that you respect die in front of you that way.
And he saw, you know, Li Su slaughter his brother, and that was like the last thing he saw before he closed the chest up. What was funny, like, his brother was like, hey, you need to take revenge for us. Like, you know, do not let anybody tell you anything otherwise. Right. He kind of passed on this burden of, okay, you need to take on this plan. Whatever happens to the rest of us, you need to go after Li Su.
Pick up that mantle.
Do what you need to do.
Maman's grandfather kind of took a risk because, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily say, fortunately, that the Weis got wasted that day. Yeah. But if it hadn't, then he runs the risk, like they are right now, of the Weis invading.
Exactly.
And so he bought time, because it was the fortunate thing that Wei Xiao has survived. Yeah. But if it wasn't going to be him, it would have been someone else.
And that was something they did bring up too. It's like, you know, either way, if we do help the Wei clan, we're going to get slaughtered. If we don't help them, there's another group that's going to come in and slaughter us, because we don't have that type of strength. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation. And it's like, okay, well, I need to prioritize my people and do what I can for them, because if the Weis get knocked out and they're I guess there's a perception like they're the strong military force. If they don't survive, there's definitely no way that their clan is going to survive. From an outsider's perspective, you're like, oh, that's kind of a bitch move, but you're like, you got to protect your people. You got to do what you need to do.
That's the priority.
You can't, you know, sacrifice your whole clan for one person when you can save a lot more people.
Right.
And especially knowing what your strengths are as a clan. It's like,
and on top of that, now the burden has been laid on the child to do that, to process through all that grief all at once, and then carrying the burden of this revenge. And so he's done it for 14 years, and so now he has amassed a strong army to pretty much combat it. So his first, of course, priority is like, oh, Li Su is available. Let's go and track him right now. Mm-hmm. So they go into battle. We get a little disclaimer. You know, horses are your friend, essentially. Don't do this in real life. Love on your animals. And so Li Su gets captured, and now the kingdom of Shindu has been retaken by the Wei clan. Mm-hmm. On the other half of it, you have in the little province of Yan, you have the Chow family that is nice and chill. Like I said, it's like north and south, especially with Shindu, especially with being like war torn and stuff like that. It's still like dark and gray and like there's hardly any grass or anything like that because, war and strife has been carrying on since then. It hasn't really necessarily recovered. And I think because of that also the water pathways have dried up. So of course everything is just arid and just dry and there's nothing growing there. And so now with Yan, you have the complete opposite of it is lush, green, bright, hopeful, cheery. And so I'm like, that's why I'm like, it reminds you so much of North and South. They show us a picture of the map. Like there's like beyond to the east, and then you have Essential Way territory in the south. Then you have, it's not Liang, because that's one of the generals, but Liang, like I can't remember the name. It starts with an L. That's to the west. And there's like a central thing to the north, and I forgot that one. But in the heart, because it's all shaped like a deer, but the heart is Panyi. That is like the main jewel. That is pretty much like whoever rules Panyi rules everything. That's the central point of everything. And so I think that was like the strict line between what Shindu and Panyi. That's practically like the line of scrimmage, essentially. With that, you have, like I said, like the lush part of Yang, which is where Man or her, I forget what her official name is. It's like, I'll get back to y'all in episode 2. But Man for their clarification. And it's one of those things where I think Wei Shou is like that too. They have formal names and they have informal names. So her informal name is Man. So there is like her cousin. Her cousin is beautiful. Like they both are. Beauty of the two cousins is well spoken out throughout the land. Her cousin is also like beautiful, sweet,
very innocent,
and she's also crushing on somebody.
Woo! I kept calling him Stable Boy. First scene that we get to see like Man and her cousin together. They're out frolicking and playing and stuff. Everything's all nice and green, and Stable Boy's in the back looking tan and sculpted, and like they're making love eyes to cousin, and they're not very subtle about it. And I was like, girl, take me to the stables too. Like, I see the vision. I get it.
Oh, she's been seeing the vision. They already have feelings like already long established, and you can see that.
But he was hot. I was like, oh, I see it. Yep,
lots of.
And there's like I like the nice slow pan up his arm, and you see the melanin, the tan. I'm like, okay.
You will get more of his arm action later on. Not the way. Right. I mean, the man got some talents, I will say that. But there's also like been already an established talk, I guess, like with Man and her grandfather. She had asked her grandfather, what type of man is Wei Xiao?
Yeah.
That's when you get the exposition from the grandfather, what had happened and what he did for the good of their clan. And so he's like, well, to kind of make up for the wrong that I did, I went ahead and sent a missive over to Wei Xiao's grandmother. I mean, he's still the Lord of Wei. Wei Xiao is like, she's still, matriarch of the family. And so she receives a letter to unite them in marriage.
Yeah.
But the initial marriage is not for Man. It's not for that. It's for her cousin.
Yep. And with the situation that's happening right now, and one of the interesting is when we see adult Wei Xiao, the first image we see as young Man is asking her grandfather about him is him standing in front of a burning house. And he looks murderous. He looks like he's done some shit. And you're always already getting kind of a picture of like, okay, this man is, he's on the warpath. He's dangerous. And so if this thing is coming to pass, there's a very good chance that their family is not going to be protected. It's not going to be a good situation. If he gets access to her clan in any fashion, there will be murder. There will be lots of slaughter. And this is not a good situation.
And that's exactly what he's trying to get to.
Exactly. And so he has a bit of a reputation already that people are little tiny bit. He has a bit of a reputation.
Your reputation precedes you.
Exactly.
I know, by the years, they've already seen him amass all this army and, slowly start conquering lands left and right, heading their way. So this is, pretty much a way for, at the last minute, for her grandfather to pretty much stave it off.
And just to protect the clan, because this is really the only way. I think they've gotten to a point where they've conquered so many lands that they're either going to have to find a way to make peace or just kind of make peace with just being slaughtered. Like, it's not going to last. And so...
yeah.
So the letter goes out, and it's not
received very well, is it?
It's not received very well at all. Because, you know, the girls are like, okay, this is... They know the situation. Like, what I do like about this episode and with the female characters, what we know about them so far, they're not idiots. Like, they're not like, you know, we're just playing in the background and lusting over stable boys. They're very much attuned to what's happening around them all the time.
In a sense of duty about it.
Yeah, and they're aware of their place in this whole ecosystem. So they know whatever they do, good and bad, is going to have real actual consequences for both of their clans. And, you know, with the cousin, she's not happy about getting married because she wants to run off with Stable Boy with the bulky arms. The
person that she actually loves, but when she hears it, because Mon does break it to Fan, this is what grandfather has wished, and so Fan's not happy about it, the cousin, but she's like, okay, I need to just go ahead and accept my duty, even though, you know, it breaks her heart to.
Yeah. And
what we also learn is that Mon is also getting betrothal gifts from a man named, I think it's Lu Yan. And apparently they were like childhood sweethearts, and so they had already had like an affinity towards each other when they were younger, but I guess like now he's come back a calling and giving betrothal gifts, and he's coming with his of an uncle. And with all these betrothal gifts, they're giving like millet and, you know, all these other things and rice and stuff. And instead of a link, because apparently that's like the ultimate thing, like down the list, like the partridge in the pear tree is getting a lynx. They couldn't find a lynx, so they brought like 2 ferrets or something like that. And the uncle's like, no one can hunt down a lynx. It seemed like a long-standing engagement, or at least understanding that they will eventually get engaged. And you can also tell kind of like at this time that Mama was just like...
not feeling it. And it didn't help that Leon's family, like his uncle is kind of an asshole about it.
Kinda.
Well, I don't want to give him benefit of the doubt, but he's very much an ass.
That dude was up there eating shrimp like he was at a buffet. Like, are you kidding me?
The whole dowry scene, the way, you know, Uncle was talking mess about the family not really being all that, it kind of gives us an idea that the family is not really as respected.
Yeah.
We don't really get much insight to Leon yet, so I can't talk too much crap about him, but from what we can kind of surmise is that he's not going to give a lot of pushback to the stuff that he's saying. The uncle was saying about the family.
Well, I think there's like going to be conflict between him and his uncle regarding a lot of stuff, but it's still not going to bode well either way, I would say. But I think like when we'll get into later episodes, we'll kind of see like what the dichotomy is. But like I said, in the hindsight of everything, it's not really necessarily what she's seeking for now, especially since like at the start of the episode, she questions her grandfather what type of man he is. And so she's already like having like machinations in her mind about it. Right. And so when it comes down to it, like her and her cousin are asleep in their bed and they're sharing it together. It kind of reminds me of Jane and Elizabeth in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice.
That's what it made me think of, because they're sharing a bed together and neither of them are sleeping. They seem like they're wide awake and they look worried. Cousin looks worried. My man looks worried, and they're just kind of, you could tell they have things going on in their heads. My man, like, is still to the point where I think she starts pretending that she's, like, asleep, right?
Yeah, I think she turns over.
She turns over.
And then, like, Fan hears, like, someone throwing rocks or whatever until she gets up and she meets with, I'm going to probably get his name wrong. Probably might get it wrong for the rest of the series, but it's, like, Bija? Or BG?
I think so.
I keep wanting to say Bee Gees, but it's not it. It's not it. But it's the stable guy. They meet together, and she was pretty much just like, you know, as much as I want to run away with you, she practically has a duty to her people, and so she has to marry Wei Xiao in order to keep the peace, because she is, by all associations, Fan is the governor's daughter. It's like pretty much her task to marry and make good with this promise in order to smooth over things with the Wei clan. But of course, our girl, Mon is awake. Yep. When Fan comes back, was just like, well, I know that eventually you were supposed to get married first. Like, Mom was supposed to get married because her and Lu Yan was already established, of course. So her wedding dress was already established. But since it seems like, you know, Fan Fan is going to have to get married first anyway, that she's going to have to pretty much take the wedding dress that that Mama had to use it for her own good. Well, Mama was just like, well, I find it kind of weird is that we're getting married at the same time, yet my dowry is less than yours. And so she keeps asking for things like, what can you essentially give me? And so Fan Fan like gives her like dresses and hairpins and whatnot to build up her dowry. My mom was like, what else? What else? And you were just like, what the? I was like, give it a minute. Give it a minute.
Let me be indignant because I'm like, what is she doing?
I was like, what? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So with that, she builds up all of this. But what my mom was doing wasn't to fulfill her dowry. No. It was to practically feel like a carry away bag for her cousin so she can go and elope with the man she loves. And Fan Fan was just like, you can't do this. I'm the governor's daughter. I'm the one who's supposed to do this. I'm supposed to be the one who protect our people because it looks better on paper. You know what I mean? The cousins were kind of like, had already cried about this before. The big surprise about her actually eloping away with the man she loves is that at least one of the cousins will be fulfilled and happy in the marriage. Right. If you thought about it, neither one of them, if they went with the original trajectory of who they were supposed to marry, would not have been happy in the least anyway. No. With that, my mom really like pushes off her cousin so she can go, but she did give Baiji like a nice threat. You go and make her happy. If you don't, I will hunt you down.
And she had the deadest serious look on her face. She was
crying, but she was just like, I'll cut you if you don't treat my cousin well.
Yeah, because Mama and Fan Fan have a very sisterly relationship. Like, you could tell they were very close. They grew up together. So, you know, it was heartbreaking seeing, like, Mama kind of come to terms with the fact that whoever marries Wei Xiao is probably going to end up dead. That's probably...
Or unhappy.
Or unhappy, if not worse. And so she's like, you know, I'd rather you be happy. And she has a carriage prepared for her. And, you know, it's heartbreaking seeing them part. And Fan Fan's like, no, don't do this. And you can still see her crying. And Mama's trying to be strong, but you can tell she's brokenhearted because she knows that with Fan Fan running off, that means that could put everything in disarray, all the plans. And that means more than likely someone else is going to have to take her place.
And of course, like, by that time, the decision was already made because when Fan Fan was just like, I have to do this, I'm the governor's daughter, like, I have the responsibility of doing this. And so Mama was just like, what would you say if I was the one who married Wei Xiao? And then we hear something interesting from her, because isn't that when she revealed about her feelings about Lu Yan? Yeah. Because originally she did have feelings for Lu Yan, like, you know, puppy love and probably like that kind of feelings, but she realized now that's not what she needs. She's essentially like, I want to marry someone that has power. Really, in the hindsight of that, Lu Yan doesn't, because she already knows that when it comes to the Wei state, he will back off. He won't be strong enough.
He's going to be weak.
He's going to be very weak. And so, like, that's not what they need. That's not what Yan needs. They need someone a little bit stronger like her. Yeah. You will also find in this series that with her being raised with her grandfather, she is very strategic. And so she learned a lot of that chess play from him. So you will see that throughout the series. A lot of these things are very methodical and thought out. It's not without care, though. All of it's not calculating. But a lot of it is with sincere care, because a lot of it at heart, she's still trying to look after her people, not only her neck, but her people.
Exactly. And I appreciated that, you know, when she was explaining her rationale, she's not a gold digger. She's not someone trying to, like, protect her neck just, you know, to live lavishly. She understands that we are on the precipice of war. I need to be with someone who is going to not only protect my people, but make sure I can do what I need to do to protect my people as well. With her having that childhood puppy love crush on him back in the day, on Li Yan or whatever.
Leon.
I keep messing up names. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
But, you know, especially as she has grown up and figured out, oh, the world is not so, it's so wonderful and happy and blissful. Like, she's an adult now. She has adult needs, and recognizing, like, the protection of her people is more important than her own happiness, and she needs someone that not only is going to protect her people, but have the resources and the skills necessary and the intellect required to be mentally strong as well as physically strong, like empire power wise. And I thought that was an interesting take. So I like that, like she kind of explained up front that this is not a self-serving, like, I'm just trying to be a gold digger and get my MRS degree. It's just like, no, in the long run, this is going to have these type of benefits, but I have to play my role
or play the game too.
Play the game appropriately, and everything's a chessboard. And so she understands it's like, okay, if I go along with this, I could maybe save Pani, because that's probably going to be his next step.
That's essentially where he's wanting to get to anyway. Because, like you said, Pani is the heart of everything. So you conquer that, you pretty much have like the lay of the entire land, especially if the Wei state already has conquered majority of the place anyway. Of course, what we already know, from her standpoint, her mind is already made up of what the next move should be. And so word gets out about, you know, her cousin leaving and eloping and how she was unfilial. And so they're panicking because they're just like, we just sent out, like, you know, this marriage agreement towards the Weis, yet we don't really have that collateral to give them. Like, there's nothing of them.
And it also reeks of deception. Like, it always reeks of playing games, and given the previous, what happened, 14 years ago, that just
rinse and repeat.
Gives another reason for, you know, Wei Sha to be agitated and be like, okay, you know what, slaughtering all these hoes.
Absolutely.
But it was really interesting seeing, like, Monmon's uncles and
the
advisors, like, going back and forth and trying to figure out what to do, and she's just sitting here waiting, like,
she's twirling a leaf, like, and just like, I'm here.
Y'all gonna come to it eventually. Give it time.
I'm surprised that she didn't just, like, you know, kind of like peek her head in their line direction, like, here, I'm here.
Because, you know, being a woman, she can't offer up advice. She can't do that stuff. She has to sit back quietly and, you know, just look pretty and not.
Yeah, and she didn't pull up Katniss just like, I volunteer as tribute. She's just like, it's like one of those things where we always hear about, it's not really a good idea until it's their idea.
Yeah, so basically having to trick them into making up the idea. And it's not until, like, one of her uncles looks over at her, she has this look on her face like, and
he's just like,
wait a minute.
Or it was the, I think it was the advisor. I think it was like Master John. It was just like, you know what? We have somebody. It's like,
duh!
Because, like, the letter, you know, as far as I know, it wasn't specific. It didn't say, like, we are specifically going to have the engagement for that particular girl. It's a win-win either way, but, of course, the difference would be temperament.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, too, because before they had come up with this plan that they came up with, quote-unquote, they were coming up with all sorts of different excuses to try to, like, sell to the Weis, like, Fan Fan got abducted by bandits, or she got ambushed, and knowing full well that was just going to draw more of his ire. So,
because it would have been mighty convenient that she suddenly came up missing now.
Yeah.
And stuff, and of course, like, it's like you had said before, it would seem to him that you were reneging on this again. So he's like, I'm going to punish y'all twice as hard.
Exactly.
And so there was the heir, they have the spare. And so her grandfather is not really pleased with the idea, but he knew eventually he was going to lose her to marriage anyway. But now she's going to more of enemy territory. But she sits next to her grandfather and she gives him a nod, and he's just like, what will be, will be. It seems like he's dealt with a lot of guilt because he's bedridden too. Her grandfather's bedridden. And so there's probably like a lot of guilt of what had happened regarding him, you know, reneging on his promise, or else he wouldn't have offered the marriage to begin with. But he also was offering the marriage as a last minute effort to save his people, because he knows that the Wei clan was coming for them.
It's just a matter of time. And he explained that. He was like, you know, I didn't want to go back on my promise, but, you know, I had a responsibility to my people, and he felt bad about it. And so, so it makes me
wonder, with her agreeing for the marriage, or eventually, like, with fate stepping in, quote unquote, for her, or really her pushing him. So I will say that she's the fate of pushing her cousin out the door so she can be the one in line. It's almost one of those things, like, you know, in order for you to really be repentant, you have to give up something you really value and love, and that will be her.
And who do you value more than anything?
That's her.
And Mon gave up the person she values the most, her own cousin, for a chance at happiness that she knew she probably wasn't going to be getting. And it's like, damn, it's just the sacrifice and this, you know, expectation that they, you know, each person has their own mission that they need to fulfill. Yeah. And basically this whole marriage is kind of like this really unstable peace treaty where one little thing could escalate into full-blown war.
Big time.
It could be catastrophic at this point. So,
and that's what it's leaning towards, because the thing about this is like they were already on thin ice to begin with, because like we said, Wei is marching towards them, and the slaughter would have been for sure, but with this marriage, it can stave off that. Yeah. Especially if they played the cards right. And now that they have someone slated in place, that's a little bit more guaranteed, because they had also mentioned, or at least like one of Man's mates had mentioned, as Fan Fan was riding away with her love, was that with her temperament, Fan Fan would not be able to survive.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
So that's the Chow side of it. The Wei side of it, when he hears about this edict, with him also, he has like 4 generals. I can't remember all their names. Some of them kind of remind you of like characters from Mulan. I'm just gonna say that. But
one of them looked like DJ Khaled, and we're like, another one.
Another one. We the best. I mean, Wei Xiao's advisor comes in, and it's just like, yeah, we have this edict, and apparently he's going to marry a Chow girl. And of course, his generals are up in arms about it, because like, this is sacrilege. And so Wei Xiao's like first initial thought was like, oh, so they leaned on my grandmother to do this. He's like, well, we're about to go all out. And so he goes to Li Su. Li Su is up here attached like practically to a cross in the dungeon and stuff. His generals bring a box with him. And the box is the same box that little Wei Xiao was in.
That's what that was! Because I was wondering what was the significance of this box.
That's what it was.
And, you know, Li Su has been captured and everything, and he finally has his moment. He finally has his opportunity to avenge what happened with Li Su killing his brother, his father, and his grandfather. And the interesting thing is, like, put him in the chest. And we see, well, we don't see it. We kind of hear it off screen, where this man gets, presumably his limbs chopped off.
That's what they said. He was going to get chopped so he can fit into the box.
Into the box. And it didn't occur to me that was the same box that he had hidden when his family was killed. And just as the last limb is getting cut off, his advisor shows up. He's like, wait, don't do anything yet. And the dude, I forgot what's his name.
One of the generals.
One of the generals comes out. He got blood on his face.
And like wiping his sword off.
Like, is there something wrong?
Oh, he's already been chopped and screwed. So it's already a done deal. And so he's just like, well, we have to kind of make nice on this, because since he was so impulsive to go ahead and off Li Su, but the place that they had inhabited and had taken over, it's just that since he had curried so much favor regarding it, the people are very wary of the ways. And so it's kind of hard to get them, I guess, like to trust them and to do everything that they need them to do.
Keeping him alive would have gave him more public support and would have had people rally behind him, like rather than treating them terribly. And one of the things that we didn't talk about was Li Su also went on this like 3-day rampage where he had all the men, all the boys slaughtered after killing Wei Xiao's family. So, you know, it's like you have a whole generations of men that are not able to fight. It's just women and children. And so, you know, now that you know, Wei Xiao's getting his revenge, and it's like, you know, keeping Li Su alive would have helped with getting people on his side. He's like, F that, we got a revenge to do. He got put in a box where I saw him kill my fam.
It's like, and done. And now you're trying to get me to marry this girl too, because that's what the advisor is trying to say too. Because in order for us to like really heal things and really bridge things, you need to marry this girl. Like,
you really want to rule and have loyalty from these people, you have to treat them well, and marrying this girl will do that. It'll bridge those gaps.
Right. And possibly, of course, with that, he can get access to Pan Yu, which is what he wants.
Exactly. That's like the crown jewel of what he needs.
So, with that, my mom said goodbye to her grandfather and to all of her aunt and her uncles, and off she goes with her entourage. And so she goes all the way up to the city gate.
And she has the seal of Pan Yu in her hand. So that's kind of like her bargaining chip, literally.
Because that's what it was. Thank you for reminding me. Because before she had left, her grandfather, and before she left with her, big presentation with her wedding dress and whatnot, she asked her grandfather for advice regarding this upcoming nuptials and stuff, and she was just like, well, what if I was to offer the city of Pawnee to him as my dowry? And, like, if that's what he wants, like, that would be a way for them to, like, temper his...
he's more likely to go along with it.
Go along with it, and also it's like, with that they will be open to the resources that got cut off, because I'm sure that's a lot of things that's lacking, too. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, if I offer this, like, offer him what his heart desires, then maybe he will not be so keen to go ahead and just straight up attack Yon and beyond, which we already know he wants to anyway. That's the reason why he's trying to get from her by any means necessary, I'm sure. So... when she leaves, she is, of course, riding in the carriage where you can't see her. There's curtains and stuff, but you can't really see her. And she's holding the seal to Pawnee. And so she's riding up to the gate, and he's notified that she's on her way. And they're, riding up to the gate. And he's like, oh, hell no. And so he goes up to the battlements, and he asks for his bow because he was going to shoot through the carriage and shoot her.
Exactly.
And the advisor... God bless his advisor. I love his advisor.
I know he says stress though.
Absolutely, because he's like, no, can you not be inhuman for once? Which I get his revenge deal. I get it, but it's like on this, he's just like, think a little rationally. So he stays his hand, and thinking about this, the advisor kind of like takes a peek over the battlements, and the curtains blow, and he catches a glimpse of her. Yeah, and he's just like, ooh, you are in trouble.
Yeah.
Like,
she's pretty.
She's pretty, because it's one of those things that just like kind of probably verifies what everyone has been saying, that their beauty is true. It's true, and so he doesn't meet with her that night. They have negotiations between them in the morning between the two advisors, his advisor and Master Jane, the advisor for the Chow family, and she's sitting behind a curtain partition. And, like, it's kind of sheer, but she's still staying off to the side. And he's up here peeling an orange. Like, he would rather be anywhere else than negotiating a marriage to an enemy, like, girl. And so, the push and pull between the two is that the Wei state wants the wedding to take place in Pawnee. Of course, if they get access to Pawnee, they won't have to marry her. He wouldn't have to marry her.
Exactly.
But they are holding fast. They want the wedding to take place in, what was it, Shindu?
I think so, yeah.
The Chow family's wanting it to stay here and to keep it here. And so they're having a tug of war about all this. Well, this place has been devastated by war. Y'all have all the resources here. And so there's like the big negotiations back and forth. And so one of Man's servants, Chow Tao, she comes and like asks her, like, why are they going back and forth? Well, Mama was just like, what he's wanting is Pawnee. We already know this. Right. But it's like, that's the thing, is like I said, if we get married in Pawnee, there's no guarantee that he's going to marry me anyway. Like, he can pretty much go and start slaughtering everybody anyway. And so, like, we don't really need that right now. And so she started coughing, I think, before all this had happened, when the pushback started happening about Pawnee versus Shindu. And so he starts walking towards her. And so after all of that, Wei Xiao was just like, you know what? If you guys cannot come to a state conclusion letting us have this marriage take place in Pawnee, y'all can pack up and you can take her with you. And then he does what?
He opens the curtain and sees her face. Ooh. And his face changes because he has this hard look like, I'm so sick of these people. But that changes on a dime. He's like, oh, hey, girl. Okay. And I remember I just started losing my mind because you see his little eyebrow like, like I might have to rethink this.
And I also love her appearance because it might seem like it's just calculating where she's trying like, soften her look to like really sell herself. But it also shows a mutual curious expression from her, which is really, really nice to see. Like, really great acting of them being enchanted with each other automatically.
Like, and it's funny because Mon looks very innocent and very, like, at first glance, she looks very innocent as well. And so when she has this look, like, she kind of has this, like, kind of taking him in, like, okay, let me match the face to the person I've been hearing about. And one of the interesting things that I remember when she was talking about with her grandfather about, like, Wei Zhao and kind of what's going on, she's like, one of the biggest issues is we don't know exactly what he wants. We need to know what he wants. And now that we know he wants Panis. So seeing that, knowing that information, knowing like okay, we already have Honey as a bargaining chip with this whole wedding, and now seeing him face to face, you can see her kind of like, okay, click, 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 like,
yes.
You see her kind of calculating, like, okay, how do we, where do we go from here?
Well, also, I forgot about, like, the other thing that her grandfather had done a parting shot on is that, you have to win hardness with softness. I'm not sure, I can't remember if it was in this episode or the future episodes or whatever, that practically she has to be like water. I mean, she can still be hard, but she still needs to wear away at him. And so, like, that's pretty much going to be the ultimate way that she is to survive any of this. This is where it's understood why her cousin could not have done this. It had to be her.
It had to be someone who had enough strategy and cunning to be able to make, be able to see things 5 steps ahead and plan accordingly. Because Fan, bless her little heart, she was not subtle about her looking at Bijan or whatever. They were making sexy eyes at each other, and I was like, they either have fucked or they were about to, because I'm like,
gearing to, because it was still innocent for her, but it's still like, that thing of, her heart was already in his hands, and so it was already best for them to go ahead and do that, so someone else of a better strategic mind could come into place, because the way that she has to play chess for not only for her life but the lives of her people will come into play. Fan, no offense to her, would not have been able to cut it. It's just, she's just not built for that, because like we had said, Mama was raised by their grandfather. Her grandfather was more of the strategic mind. He also had told her, you have such like a valued mind, more than your father and your uncle combined.
Yeah. He knows she's way smarter than all of them, and unfortunately has to downplay that just because she's a woman. And the fact that none of them have picked up on that, how smart she is, lets us know that she's incredibly intelligent and has been able to go all this time without being so much of a challenge to her family that they see her as a threat. Right. And that's really going to be crucial for this upcoming nuptials, because she's going to have to figure out a way. How do I keep my people alive?
Right.
How do I soften him up where he no longer has, hatred toward us, but he's already been indoctrinated from seeing what happened to his brother and his family and stuff. And it's like, no, that hatred being born, how does she cut through that to soften him up and protect herself, but also protect her people as a whole? So, that ending part, I was like, ooh!
Very much so.
Kicking my feet. I'm like, ooh, this is going to get interesting. So,
well, especially since, like, now they've seen each other, now that's like a whole other thing in play, the attraction that they'll have for each other. And eventually that will grow, because, they're still enemies, even with them finding value and attraction in each other. Yeah. Because, that's also going to be the guilt of it, especially the guilt more weighing heavily on his side than hers. Because, like, she doesn't have the heavy cross to bear like he does. So I guess with that being said, what is your prediction for episode 2?
I don't know, but I have a feeling that her being so, like, strategic and calculating, it's gonna work, but not in the ways that she expected necessarily. I don't know how to say that, but I have a feeling it's gonna get her in trouble with him and vice versa. I don't know, but I'm interested to see, like, the first official meeting and how this goes down. But yeah, that I don't have predictions at this point. I'm just like, let's go. Let's see the bedroom eyes. Let's see the thirstiness. So yeah.
Well, we will resume in where we left off from here, because practically from every scene, I believe, like, it'll just pretty much resume as if like you're watching one long movie if you just splice it all together. But yes, we will go on to episode 2 of The Prisoner of Beauty, and we'll let you know more about our thoughts.